Hey, how's it going, guys and gals? Welcome back to Esports Talk. I hope you're all having a good week so far. And I feel like it's time and time again that we have talked about rosters not getting paid on time, or in a lot of cases just not being paid at all, especially on the Rainbow Six Siege side of things. This happens a lot in this scene for some reason. But this time it's LG's Factor coming out and putting LG on blast for, as I mentioned, not paying their players for tournaments and events dating all the way back to December of last year. If you guys remember or have kept up with Siege at all, we have talked about it previously. The North American League only going to 8 teams for this year, so that means we've got teams like LG exiting Rainbow Six earlier in the year alongside Reciprocity and Evil Geniuses, and apparently LG's Rainbow Six roster from that time is still waiting for some of these payments. It's been about 6 months since the last season LG has been in, and we still haven't been paid for Season 11, which ended in April of this year, OGA, which was December of last year, and US Nationals, which was also in December of last year. And he says they've contacted them many times to try and get paid. So they're missing pay from 3 different tournaments, which, like I mentioned, some of them dating back almost a full year from now. And obviously these payouts weren't anything too massive. I believe Season 11 was about 14 grand. For US Nationals, you had 5,000 in winnings. Then for OGA Pit, it was about $6,000 in winnings. But obviously, just because the prize pools weren't anything super massive doesn't mean that it doesn't matter. Because you look at an org like LG, and I'm thinking, with how much money these guys have thrown towards content creators and pros in the past, they have definitely shown how much money they're willing to throw out here. And in fact, we've actually seen their revenue and their finances in the past, which Jake did make a video on. You guys can go check that out if you want. A lot of that money coming from their prior Fortnite streamers and whatnot. But you see how much money they can make from this, and needless to say, I think LG could definitely pay these guys. And then you've got huge names like Anomaly, Muselk, of course, Ninja in the past, Rocky No Hands, who we talked about previously, all these guys being signed to Luminosity within this year alone. And when it's huge names like this, it's usually pretty safe to assume that Luminosity threw them a pretty decent bag for them. Maybe not so much for Rocky No Hands, considering he is still kind of an up-and-coming streamer. He's not nearly as big as Muselk or Anomaly. But if you guys haven't heard of him, go check out Jake's video on him. He has an incredible backstory. He is a quadriplegic gamer that plays video games with just his mouth. So when you've got a guy like him who's doing what he's doing, which is very rare, obviously, it might still be kind of safe to assume that Luminosity gave him some decent money. And we can't forget the prior Fortnite pros that Luminosity had with them, the ones that went off and started their own org 1%. Mind you, these guys are living in a freaking mansion off their Fortnite content creation, which, yes, most of their money probably did come from Fortnite content creation. However, I'm sure that the salary that they received from Luminosity definitely helped. Then you've got XQC, which, hint, hint, nothing absolutely concrete yet. However, it does seem very likely, according to sources, that something could be coming very soon with XQC and Luminosity. So when it's XQC, obviously one of the biggest streamers out there, and when it's XQC taking that offer from Luminosity, because he could sign with bigger orgs if he wanted to, most likely, that LG has got to be sending him some pretty fat stacks. So with all this in mind, it makes me question how Luminosity is willing to throw all this big money towards these big streamers like potentially XQC, Anomaly, and Muselk, but when you've got guys on your esports team that really should be defining who you are as an org, you can't pay them. However, I gotta say, I'm not trying to take shots at LG. We don't know exactly why these guys haven't been paid yet. There might be something going on behind the scenes, or just, something delaying this transaction somehow. So I don't want to paint LG in a super bad, ugly light or anything like that. However, when you've got tournaments that have taken place almost a full year ago, people are still waiting to be paid for those. It does not look good for LG. Hopefully, now that the situation has gone a bit more public, hopefully LG will actually take notice and pay these guys as soon as possible. And while we're on the topic of Rainbow Six Siege, which is absolutely one of my favorite game scenes to cover on this channel, but an interesting story that kind of slipped by, maybe not entirely worth a video on its own. However, since we're already here talking about Siege, I might as well bring it up to you guys, and that's going to be 2 of Rogue's members, koreey and AceeZ, which, if you guys are familiar with Siege, you're probably familiar with them. They're being handed out consequences for what some call match fixing. However, the way Ubi puts it is that they were discussing insider information. They were talking with others about a match that they had with Team Empire all the way back in April, Pro League Season 11, in which they were asked if they were going to win against Empire or if they thought they were going to win against Empire, and they said no. And then Rogue did go on to lose that game 7-5, which Ubi puts it as, like I said, them discussing insider information. And AceeZ's defense is that he usually isn't serious when replying to someone who's asking about match results, but Ubi found it to not be a joke, and they said that there was a clear intention for them to rely on that information provided by him in order to bet against Rogue. And in Corey's case, it was about the same thing, except he said in my opinion, I think that Team Empire will win against Rogue. But it was actually AceeZ getting a 3-game suspension from European League, while koreey only got a warning, even though they basically did the same thing. But I believe it was more so the context around it, where koreey said, in my opinion, now I think that Team Empire will win against Rogue, whereas with AceeZ, we can only assume what was said, but it seems like it was more so a definite kind of saying, like, yes, Team Empire will win against Rogue, which makes it look a lot more fishy, as if, yes, you are match fixing, which actually ended up landing Rogue a $5,000 fine. And of course, yes, these players did get their penalties, but it is sort of a shaky topic because we don't know exactly what was said. I'm kind of curious to see what was in those DMs, because maybe we could look at it and think, you know, maybe Ubisoft did go a little bit out of proportion with these punishments, because maybe AceeZ and koreey really just were giving their truthful, honest opinion about who was going to win. Because I'm sure, as a lot of us Rainbow Six viewers know, historically, Team Empire is a very strong team, especially back around that time. So maybe they were just looking at it and thinking, yeah, we probably will just lose against Team Empire, but we'll give it our best, but we're probably going to lose. So the punishments weren't extremely harsh. Obviously, 3 European League games kind of does feel a bit long when you're actually a player in that position. Obviously, koreey did just get a warning, but it is a lot better to just not discuss things like this, especially for gambling purposes. So it's kind of hard to judge Ubi's verdict on this. Of course, let us know what you all think about all this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you guys sometime soon. I'm getting kicked out of the studio right now by Jake because he's waiting on me to record a video. So I'll see you guys soon. Take it easy, everyone. Bye-bye.